Hello and welcome to the EDU-TALK Diabetes series hosted by Easy, Diabetes Dry Skin Lotion and Foot Cream, Biotone, and Diabetes Health and Wellness Professionals. With the daily challenges of diabetes and interest in health and wellness strategies, the EDU-TALK Diabetes series supports building your wellness community by connecting you with diabetes health professionals who share their knowledge and expertise on topics of concern to provide you the tools and resources to support and manage a healthy lifestyle. Today's expert is Linda Lockett Brown. Linda is the president of Cinet Registered Dietitians and Wellness. Her eDSMEs, Diabetes Education program is nationally accredited and can be completed online, by phone, or in person. Her approach empowers people with diabetes to master 7 key behaviors. She has been featured on TV, podcasts, and radio, sharing nutritional information, and is a former EDU-TALK diabetes presenter whose talks can be found in the EDU-TALK archive library on biotone.com or ease-z.com under the EDU-TALK tab. Let's listen and learn as Linda explains how fiber is one of the few calorie-free things that provides so many health benefits, such as controlling blood sugar, feeling full faster, weight loss, and fiber can decrease the risk of heart disease and cancer. Additionally, Linda explains the different types of fiber, what they do, how much you need, and how easily to add them to your daily diet. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for having your sound and video muted, and feel free to chat questions or comments during Linda's presentation that she will answer at the end. And with that, yay, we're working, we're doing it. So I'm going to sign off, Linda. I'll see you at the end of your presentation to help with chats, and the screen is all yours.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And this is actually one of my favorite topics because a lot of the patients that I get in my office are afraid. They're afraid to eat. And that's part of why I like to do this. The other reason why I like to do it is because there is so much there in the media and you don't know who to believe. And the other reason why I like to do this is because the food industry doesn't really want you to eat food. They want you to eat processed foods. So we're going to talk about how that relates to fiber and what to choose. So why do you want to eat fiber anyway? I remember when I first learned nutrition, we called fiber nature's broom because it has the ability to clean out your intestines, which is a good thing. And so one of the reasons why we want to, there are many reasons for eating fiber, high fiber foods, but number one is it has no calories. So this is foods that are high in fiber do have calories, but the fiber itself doesn't. So what does it do when it gets in your body? It slows down your digestion. So if you have trained yourself to stop eating when you feel full, because your digestion is slowed down, you feel full sooner. So the effect of that over time is that you eat less food. So in addition to those fullness benefits, there are also benefits of fiber decreasing cholesterol. And one of the other things that my clients kind of have in common is their doctors have them on cholesterol medication, and so they really want to get off. Now, of course, I can't promise anyone that I can get them off their medication, but we are able to sometimes reduce the dose. And so last, but certainly not least, fiber may promote weight loss. So when it comes to diabetes, in addition to helping control cholesterol, and what that second reduces cholesterol should say is reduces blood sugar, it may promote weight loss. And anytime you promote weight loss, you are decreasing blood sugar as well. So fiber can be divided into two broad categories. Now, when you're reading through media, reading through things, you want to make sure that they are talking about fiber from food. Because if you look at fiber from the perspective of food science, there are actually other categories of fiber. But for our purposes, we're going to focus on food. So when you're looking at food, you can broadly divide fiber into two categories. One category is soluble. And when you think about soluble, think about something that dissolves. So soluble fiber, when it gets into your intestines, and that's if you've drunk enough water with the meal, it will form a gel. And so that gel is actually what gives you the soluble fiber benefits. Now, even though the soluble fiber forms a gel, you do not get calories from it. But here's a side benefit. We're going to talk about it more at the end, but I want to mention it now because it may be kind of a new concept. Humans do not have the enzymes available to break down fiber, but the bacteria in your colon do have the ability to break down fiber. And so you've probably heard that fiber decreases your risk of cancer of the colon. This is how part of that happens. The bacteria in your colon actually ferment the fiber, soluble and insoluble, and produce some acidic compounds. And those compounds actually protect you against cancer of the colon specifically. What we're going to talk about at the end is another thing that happens when those bacteria ferment the soluble fiber is they actually increase your internal production of GLP-1. So we'll talk about that more at the end. So the food groups that have soluble fibers are the same food groups that have insoluble. The proportions are different, but I ordered them in a different way by the amount. So when we're talking about soluble fibers, we're talking about vegetables, fruits, and grains. So in the vegetable category, we're looking at starchy vegetables, legumes, and sweet potatoes in particular, as opposed to white potatoes. And when we're looking at insoluble, so insoluble would be the fiber that basically goes through the GI tract unchanged. So it goes out the same way it came in. And so those food groups are going to be your grains, your legumes, of course, your vegetables, and fruit. So here's the question. Does all fiber work the same? And the answer is no, they don't. So if fibers don't work the same, if soluble and insoluble work differently, that means that you need to have some of both in your system. So here are some of the possible benefits of soluble fiber. Of course, we've already talked about heart health in that soluble fiber actually traps bile, and bile is released by your liver in order to digest fat. The backbone of bile is cholesterol. So soluble fiber traps the bile that's left over that your body didn't need to digest your meal, and it takes it out of your system. So by taking that leftover bile out of your system, it doesn't get recycled, and the amount of cholesterol in your blood actually drops. So soluble fiber can help with weight loss. And you probably, if you go on the internet looking for weight loss craze things, you probably saw glucomannan. And there were a lot of supplement companies trying to sell that. And they were saying people were getting all this weight loss. Glucomannan is a bean that contains soluble fiber. So the problem when you isolate the fiber like that, when you isolate it from the food itself, the problem is when you isolate it from the food itself, there's a greater risk of negative side effects like blockage of the colon. So if you're getting your soluble fiber from food, you don't have to worry about your colon getting blocked unless you're just not drinking anything at all. But if you're eating it from food and drinking adequate fluid, you don't have to worry about that. So the weight loss comes from you feeling fuller. Your intestines are healthier. And every day we are learning more and more about the linkages between the signals that go between your large intestine, the vagus nerve, and the rest of your body. And it's a totally different topic, but it is related to this, that if your GI tract is not healthy, you have an increased risk of depression. So you have an increased risk of fibromyalgia, increased risk of many things if the intestines are not healthy. So soluble fibers are going to help you with that. But what our main topic is for today is soluble fiber and control of blood sugar. So I want to get a little technical about dietary fiber. So when you are reading, because this is important when you're reading, you will see the term dietary fiber. So the term dietary fiber, the way you think of it as total fiber. So when it says dietary fiber, that's the soluble, the insoluble, and those other ones that I told you about that are important for the food industry, but not important when it comes to food itself. So there are hundreds at this point, hundreds of research studies that have shown that increasing dietary fiber from all sources can reduce A1C, can reduce fasting glucose, can reduce fasting insulin. And you may say, well, what's up with that? One of the struggles that a lot of folks with type 2 diabetes have is weight loss. So if you can reduce fasting insulin levels, it will make it easier for you to lose weight. So that's the significance. And then last but not least, there is a possibility for a therapeutic use of soluble fibers in controlling blood sugar. And I specifically put maybe therapeutic because we don't have the data to support that yet. And so how will you know when we have enough data to support a therapeutic use? When we have a number. When I can say to you, the data says X number of grams of soluble fiber reduces blood sugar X amount, then we're in the therapeutic range. But right now, we are not there. So if you see people making those claims, we're not there yet. Now, one of the things that people tend to forget is when the government comes out with the dietary guidelines for Americans, the dietary guidelines for Americans apply to healthy people with no diseases. So when the dietary guidelines say you need 14 to 28 grams of fiber a day. And what that's based on is 14 grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories consumed. If you looked at these guidelines, you would think, oh, okay, if I'm an adult over age 19, all I have to do is get to 34. If I'm over 51, all I need to do is get to 28. Well, just remember these numbers apply to healthy people that have no diseases. So if you're diabetic, these numbers do not apply to you. So if you were to ask the question, which fiber is best for controlling blood sugar, the answer is going to be soluble fiber for all the reasons that we mentioned earlier. So then the question becomes, if soluble fiber is the best for controlling blood sugar, where do I get the soluble fiber? Which foods? So when we look at foods, I have just some examples here. And if you look at a half a cup of Fiber One cereal, it contains 14 grams of fiber. Now, in that instance, most of that fiber is insoluble, so still has benefits. Shredded wheat, all bran, oatmeal, Cheerios. So the one food that has the most soluble fiber per serving, say half a cup, is actually oatmeal. But look at the other food groups. You also have soluble fiber found in vegetables, carrots, green beans. So when we tell people to eat a wide variety of foods, that also helps to increase the intake of soluble fiber. Now, there's some food groups that do tend to have more, things like barley, brown rice, whole wheat has some, bran muffin, we have the legumes, and look at what's in a serving of legumes. So when I say legumes, I'm talking those beans, kidney beans, black beans, pinto beans, lima beans. And this is per half cup serving. Look at the black beans. I'm actually doing a series of food demonstrations to show people all of the things that you can do with black beans. So if you were going to eat a bean, black beans would be a really good choice. So in the fruit category, we have apples and pears, and what has the highest, and this is actually soluble fiber, is actually prunes. So if you look at TV commercials, when people suffer with constipation, you know, they're pushing particular products to chew or mix with liquid. Yes, those products will work, but having some prunes tastes a whole lot better, and you're getting more fiber, plus you're getting some vitamins and minerals as well. Now, I included this slide because, you know, the food industry they're very industrious. And so what they would rather do, rather than have you eat whole foods, they would rather have you eat foods that have been supplemented with things. And so on a food label, here are some of the things that you might see. Now, there's a separate list of insoluble, but I just included the soluble. So if you see the term inulin, mucilage, beta-glucans, pectins, gums, psyllium, and resistant starch, those are sources of soluble fiber. But when you look at this middle column where it says the source, the first word that you see in a couple of these descriptions is extracted. So these are taken from the food and dried and then added to other foods. You may remember years ago when there was a particular white bread that they were running ads, and it said, this bread contains more fiber than whole wheat bread. And you were probably going, what are they talking about? What they had done is they had added inulin, possibly psyllium, to the white bread and said it was a high fiber source. But that was not a natural source. That was an extract that had been added back. So health benefits: increase good bacteria, lower that bad LDL cholesterol, slows things down in the GI tract, may help lower total cholesterol and prevent constipation, and may help with weight management and glucose control, particularly the resistant starch. So just wanted you to know you're going to see that on food labels, and those foods are in the category called functional foods. But the food industry, when they're talking about functional foods, they're talking about highly processed foods that things have been added to. So, what foods have the most soluble fiber? So we're going to get more into detail in a minute about that. But the question that's probably rolling around in your mind, because we've already looked at if you're an adult needing 28 to 38 grams of fiber a day, how much do you need to control blood sugar? The research is kind of going in the direction of 50 grams of fiber a day to control blood sugar. Now, as I said earlier, we don't know yet of the 50 grams how much needs to be soluble, how much needs to be insoluble. We don't know that yet, but the data, there's some pretty solid data about 50 grams a day. And I'm going to show you at the end that may sound difficult, but it actually isn't. From food itself, not with supplements. So before we go there, I want to answer the question of, are there any downsides to increasing soluble fiber? There are a couple of downsides, all totally manageable. One downside is if you have not been eating high fiber, and let's say you get motivated and you decide, I am going to have black beans every day this week with my dinner. Probably not a good idea, because your body needs time to acclimate to it. So if you say, I'm going to have a quarter of a cup serving of black beans, the first day that you eat it, you do not eat a quarter of a cup. You eat a teaspoon. So you eat a teaspoon, you drink a lot of water. If you don't have any side effects from that, then the next day you could eat 2 teaspoons. So the moral of this story is go slow. So as you increase your fiber intake, you want to go slowly. You know, Americans, we tend not to want to do that. We want everything now. But when it comes to increasing your fiber intake, you really need to go slowly. The second downside is if you do not drink adequate fluid, because remember, with soluble and insoluble fibers, you want the soluble fibers to form a gel, and you want the insoluble fibers to swell. And so what both of those processes need is water. They need water. So when you are increasing your fiber intake, you also need to be increasing your fluid intake, and that's fluid from all sources. So the next question is, does it matter where you get your fiber from? It absolutely does. When you get fiber from food, in addition to getting the fiber, you're getting vitamins, you're getting minerals, and by default, it's balanced. So if you're getting fiber from food, you're getting other nutrients as well, you're getting balance. If you are getting your fiber from a supplement, the balance is not there. You're not getting other vitamins and minerals, and there is a greater risk of having negative consequences when you're getting fiber from supplements rather than food. So here's the moral of that story. Fiber supplements will never replace food. They will never replace food. Now, I understand that if you're in the medical profession, you probably have some clients that have some medical conditions happening in their intestines, particularly, well, it could be small or large intestines. And there may be a therapeutic need for a fiber supplement. There may be a therapeutic need for that. That's not what I'm talking about, because in those instances, that fiber is being used as a treatment. So what I'm talking about here is choosing foods that are high fiber as a way to control weight, control glucose. So it's a different concept. So just think of one as a medicine, one is better food choices. So I always like to get practical as much as possible. So we're going to look at just
grab your pen and paper and write down the number of grams of carbohydrates in each one of these beans. There are 42 grams of carbohydrate in 1 cup of cooked lima beans. There are 36 grams of carbohydrate in 1 cup of black-eyed peas. There are 36 grams of carbohydrate in 1 cup of black-eyed peas. There are 48 grams of carbohydrate in 1 cup of cooked navy beans. There are 48 grams of carbohydrate in 1 cup of cooked navy beans. Grab your pen and paper and write down the number of grams of carbohydrates in each one of these beans.
So I'm going to, apparently that has a loop in it, so we're going to keep going. So what we were doing there, and I do this with my clients, because when I say you need to eat more beans, they're looking at me cross-eyed, and they're like, well, beans are high in starch, they're high in carbs, so I can't eat that. So what I have my clients do is take a cup of one of these beans and reduce the serving size to 1/3 or 1/2 cup, depending on which bean it is, to show them that all you need to do is reduce the serving size to make it 1 carb, or as close to 15 grams of carbohydrate as you can get. So that's just a way to show them how to make those adjustments and to show them that you can build these foods in, but it may require adjusting the portion size. So that's what that was about. So I promised you that I was going to show you a practical way, and I'm located in the South, so we pick Southern foods, a way to have a high fiber meal. So this could be a lunch, this could be a dinner. So if you had a cup of collard greens, a cup of cabbage, and that's in the same meal, a half a cup of steamed carrots, 2 ounces of baked chicken, a small sweet potato, and a cup of strawberries, you could have 19 grams of fiber in that one meal. So if you did that with 3 meals in a day, you would be at close to 60 grams of fiber. So that's kind of the point. The data is looking at 50 grams being the number that you want to shoot for if you have been diagnosed with diabetes. 50 grams is what you want to shoot for if you can have 3 meals a day with 19 grams each or close to it. You can get the 50 grams, you can get 60 grams. So it sounds difficult, but with some good choices, it does not have to be difficult. And the other thing that I truly love about this meal is, especially for my male clients, they feel like when they're diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, the world as they know it has ended, and that they're going to spend the rest of their days being hungry. And so when you look at this meal and you look at total carbs, not just fiber, if you look at total carbs, the collard greens and the cabbage, you're looking at 3 to 5 grams of total carbohydrate. The carrots, you're looking at 3 to 4 grams of total carbohydrate. The chicken, you're looking at 0. A small sweet potato, you're looking at 15 grams of total carbohydrate. And with a cup of strawberries, you're looking at 15 grams. So for a male, this could be a 60 total gram carbohydrate meal. So you can get your fiber without going over on your total carbs. So I said I would end with fiber and GLP-1. We're going to have a lesson later in the year on GLP-1s and blood glucose and on weight loss. And I'll look at what the data says when I put that together. But I'll just tell you my general feeling about that right now. And this is just based on my experience with my clients. I have clients that are taking GLP-1s, and the older clients are becoming frail, and the younger clients are becoming malnourished. And that's concerning, because it's like, well, we may be winning the war with the weight scale. Well, we may be winning the battle with the weight scale, but losing the war when it comes to overall health. But what is exciting to me is that if a person diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or not diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, if they increase their soluble and insoluble fiber intake, internal, generated inside your own body, GLP-1 levels increase. I find that very exciting and very encouraging, and just one more reason to try to help folks eat balanced. I'm all about balance, because your body is designed to be able to use things that are balanced, maintain balance, and maintaining balance is actually what maintains health. So that's what I have for you tonight, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions.
Well, thank you so much. And I had some questions.
Okay.
Number one, and maybe I missed it, what does GLP-1 stand for? What does it mean? What is that?
Okay. That is a compound inside the body that regulates your metabolism at a certain level. And it's an abbreviation for a really long name. But it was originally, it's a drug now, but it was originally used to control blood sugar. And then they figured out, well, if you up the dose, people start losing weight. So it was originally designed for blood sugar control, but then when manufacturers figured out if we up the dose, people lose weight, then it just took off as a weight loss drug, people totally forgetting that the original purpose of the drug was to decrease blood sugar levels. So the technical name, my mind just went blank, but these would be the Ozempics and the Wegovy's and all of those. It's that class of drug.
Okay, thank you. And everyone, feel free to chat questions or comments for Linda. Meryl is asking, how does a sweet potato compare to a regular baked potato?
Excellent question. And so you caught that. You didn't see any white potatoes on there. Sweet potatoes have more fiber than white potatoes. So the benefits that we're looking for with the soluble and the insoluble fiber, you get that from a sweet potato. You don't get that from a white potato. And you also don't get it from sweet potato fries.
Unfortunately. I want to go back to what you were saying about fiber and not enough water, and it could create a block.
Yes.
How do you unblock it at that point? If the fiber is a gel substance, how do you undo that?
Well, it's actually a potentially life-threatening situation. It's called a fecal impaction. So basically, nothing's going to get out, and people actually have to go to the hospital. You go to the hospital to get it undone. So prevention, you just don't want to have an impaction. You want to drink enough fluid, and I just don't think we emphasize that enough with people. If it's minor, such that the body can clear it on its own, the way you would know that you even had a problem would be that you would get a large amount of gas in your abdomen, and it might be extremely, extremely painful. So prevention, don't want to do that. Increase fiber, increase fluid, and you'll be fine.
All right. Lorraine is saying, thank you for the presentation. She will be sure to share it with the EDU-TALK series with her patients. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the EDU-TALK Diabetes series, we do email a follow-up tomorrow. You'll receive it late morning, midday. If you don't see it in your inbox, please check your junk mail. The follow-up email includes a copy of the recording, a copy of Linda's PowerPoint presentation, and contact information if you have additional questions for Linda to answer. And
I have a really nice handout. It's like a 3-pager with foods divided by food group and the amount of fiber in each one.
That's great. I'd like to say Linda has also done previous presentations, which I mentioned at the beginning, that are in the EDU-TALK Diabetes Archive Library. And this brings me back, Linda, to thinking about reading labels.
Yes.
How important that is, especially if this is new to navigate and you're trying to figure out the carbohydrates and the fiber and then those nasty added sugars. I really would like to encourage you folks to go back and look at the archive library on some of Linda's previous talks. Um, Let's see, Meryl is saying I had to miss the beginning, and as I was still working, it is a relief to know that I can watch it tomorrow. Thank you, Meryl. Additionally, Linda mentioned the GPL-1.
GLP-1.
And yes, you are scheduled on June 10th to present your GPL-1 without weekly injections. So that will be the topic in June, and be sure to watch for RSV invites to that. I don't see any other questions or comments coming in regarding fiber or sweet potato fries. Or but I will ask, is 2 ounces of chicken enough?
It depends on your weight.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on your weight. If you're a male, you probably need 3 ounces. But for women, they can, depending on whether your weight is stable, if you need to lose weight, you need to gain weight. Because in America, we eat too much meat. We eat too much meat, way more than we need. And so if you're trying to lose weight, cutting back on meat and then adding fruits and vegetables is a healthier way to do it. That's just not the approach we generally take in the United States. Meat should be the side dish and not the entree.
So it is. It's a new way of thinking.
It's a new way
And
of
I
thinking.
think that's what a lot of this is with diabetes health and wellness and managing diabetes.
Because there's a impression out there that you can eat all the meat you want and there are no health consequences to that. And that's just not true. Just not a true statement.
Well, I can imagine that with the way the food industry likes to turbocharge food. Let's put it that way.
Turbocharge. I love that.
Let's see. Are B&M baked beans equal to navy beans?
Ooh, that is a superb question. The answer is no. They're not. In that whenever the beans are canned, especially baked bean products, sugars are added to it. If you were to take the navy beans and just cook them and say use onions and some garlic, and if you're into hot things, throw a little hot sauce in there, chili peppers or whatever, you would just be getting fiber, some carbs, but mainly you'd be getting a lot of fiber. If you took an equivalent amount of that, in fact, if you just cook the beans, the serving size would, based on getting 15 grams of carbohydrate, would be a half a cup. If you get the beans out of the can, the serving size is 1/3 cup to get 1 carb because it has all those added sugars. So you'd be better off just making it yourself and not using it as baked beans per se, or Splenda and I think it's mainly, Splenda and something you probably haven't heard of in years, Sweet and Low, actually have brown sugar products, where if you want to make your own baked beans, you could add that product and minimize the added sugars, but still have the sweetness to it.
All right. And Meryl is asking again, would you put molasses in it, or does molasses have sugar in it?
Molasses is a source of sugar. Molasses is a source of sugar. The only benefit to molasses would be it is so concentrated that you might be able to add less, but I tend not to encourage that with my clients because my clients just tend to go overboard. And if I tell them molasses may be okay, they'll just pile it in and say, she said it was okay. It's okay with caveats. So, but I can suggest a different way to do it. And that would be, instead of using an artificial sweetener or using molasses, use applesauce as the sweetener. So if you use applesauce as the sweetener, then the measurements pretty much would stay the same. So you're using applesauce as a source of sweetness rather than an added sugar. And that works in a lot of recipes.
Thank you. Well, I don't see any other questions that have come in or comments. So I would like to mention unsweetened applesauce. Okay,
Yeah, unsweetened applesauce.
very good.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention the upcoming EDU-TALKs we have, EDU-TALK Diabetes series on April 8th. We have Michelle Plummer presenting on benefits of exercise for type 2 diabetes. And May 13th, we have Phyllis Cook, and she will present on diet changes can control type 2 diabetes. So that should be an interesting one as well. Thank you so much, Linda, for your past, present, and future Diabetes EDU-TALKs. Really appreciate it. I always learn so much from you. And everyone, thank you for making time to join in the EDU-TALK Diabetes series for yourself, your friends, your family, your clients. Be sure to visit the EDU-TALK archive libraries on ease.com or biotone.com. You can find both the EDU-TALKs for massage and diabetes. And join us for upcoming EDU-TALKs, and watch your inbox tomorrow for the follow-up. If it's not there, please check your junk mail or contact me and I'll send it along. Okay, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Linda. A lot of thank yous are coming in. So everyone take care, eat well, and enjoy this extra hour of sunlight. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.